Okay, I am going to work through the Converting Between Forms classwork partner worksheet so that you can see how to get the correct answers on each of these. So first problem looks like this, and we are asked to get vertex form. So if we want vertex form, that means we need to do completing the square. So first thing I'm going to do is kind of ignore this y equals right now. So I'm going to move the -6 to the other side, which is going to give me negative 2x squared minus 4x equals 6. Now I need to do completing the square, but remember, we don't do completing the square with a leading coefficient. So I need to pull out that leading coefficient. And if I take out -2, that's going to leave x squared plus 2x plus our magic number, which we'll do in just a second, equals 6 plus our magic number. So now we need to think about what is half of this squared. So half of 2 is 1, 1 squared is 1. But if we fill in a 1 inside a parentheses that needs to be distributed by -2, then we're actually subtracting 2 on the other side. So now this can be factored to be x plus 1 squared. It equals 4, and we can't forget about our leading coefficient that's outside. And now we're going to stop. So we're not completing the square. We're not solving for x. We just wanted to change it into vertex form, which is what we have now. So our final answer is just going to be our completing the square left side. And then we're going to bring that 4 back over. So subtract 4 from both sides. So this is vertex form for number 1. All right, number 2. So this time we're doing intercept form. So in order to get intercept form, that means that we want factored form. Well, in order to factor this, we have to first get standard form. So what this is the same as -2 and then x minus 1 times x minus 1 plus 162. So remember that unless our numbers are one's positive and one's negative, we're going to have a middle term. The only time we don't have a middle term is if these cancel each other out, and -1 and -1 will not cancel each other out. So first thing we need to do is multiply our binomials together. Then we'll distribute the -2, and then we'll combine like terms. That will give us standard form. We want intercept form, which means then once we get that answer, we need to factor. So first up, I'm going to multiply the binomials together, which would be x squared minus 2x plus 1, and then the plus 162. Next up, we need to distribute the GCF, so that's -2x squared plus 4x minus 2 plus 162. And then we need to combine like terms, so -2x squared plus 4x plus 160. So now we have standard form. But the problem is asking us to get intercept form. So what we need to do now is factor this. So first thing we look for is a GCF. And all these can be divided by 2. So I'm going to pull out a 2. But not only that, since the first one's negative, I'm going to take out a -2, which would leave x squared minus 2x minus 80. So that's going to make it a little bit easier to factor. So now I have a trinomial, so no leading coefficient anymore because I took it out as a GCF. So I need to think of numbers that multiply to be -80 that add up to -2. And the numbers I'm thinking of are -10 and +8. So there we have it. So here's our intercept form, which is factored form. So there's number 2. All right, next up, number 3, we're doing vertex form again. So vertex form is when we have to complete the square. But before we can complete the square, we have to get standard form. So first thing we need to do is get standard form. The way we get standard form is to multiply our binomials together and then distribute the GCF. So if I multiply the binomials together, I'm going to get x squared plus 4x minus 12. And then I need to distribute the 4, so that would be 4x squared plus 16x minus 48. So now I have standard form. But I want to get vertex form, so I have to do completing the square. So here we go. So let me move this up a little bit more. I think I'm going to need some more space. All right, so first thing I'm going to do is move the 48 to the other side. So that would give me, well, I'll go ahead and write it out separately. So that'll be 4x squared plus 16x equals 48. I can't complete the square with a leading coefficient, so I need to take out that 4. So x squared plus 4x plus the magic number equals 48 plus the magic number. So half of 4 is 2. 2 squared is 4. But since I have a leading coefficient that I pulled out, this value is actually 16. Excuse me, sorry. So now I can factor this to be x plus 2 squared. And that looks like that's 5064. So at this point, all I need to do is to bring the 64 back over. So y equals 4. X plus 2 squared minus 64. And that is vertex form. Oops. All right. So far, so good. Okay, moving right along. So I'm on to number 4. So I need to go to a new page. Sorry. All right, number 4. So I want to write standard form. So standard form is when we need to multiply the binomials together, distribute the GCF if there is one, and then combine like terms. So I need to first remember that this means 3 and then x minus 10 times x minus 10 and then plus a 10. So keep in mind that this means I need to multiply those two binomials together. All right, so when I multiply the two binomials together, so I would get x squared minus 20x plus 100, and then plus 10. All right, next thing I need to do is distribute my GCF. So 3x squared minus 60x plus 300 plus 10. And now I need to combine like terms, so y equals 3x squared minus 60x plus 310. And now I have standard form. So that one's done. All right, next one, number 5, we're doing intercept form. So intercept form means factored form. So all I need to do is factor. So we start with negative 3x squared plus 18x plus 21. So intercept form means factor. Before I can factor, I have to have standard form. I have standard form, so I can go straight to factoring. First thing we do when we factor is look for a GCF. All these can be divided by 3, but I'm going to take a negative 3 because I don't want my leading coefficient to be negative. So I'm going to take out a negative 3, which would leave x squared minus 6x minus 7. So now I have a trinomial. There isn't a leading coefficient other than 1. So I just need to think about numbers that multiply to be negative 7 that add up to negative 6. So what I'm thinking of is, so I have my negative 3, x minus 7, and x plus 1. Because that's going to multiply and give me negative 7, but combine together to be negative 6. And now I have intercept form, because intercept form is factored form. So there's number 5. All right, on to number 6. Again, looking for intercept form, but this time I'm starting off in vertex form. So let me get this one written down, and then plus 128. All right, so in order to get intercept form, I have to factor. In order to factor, I have to start with standard form. So first thing I need to do is get this in standard form. And then again, remember that this is -8, and then x plus 3 times x plus 3 plus 128. All right, so here we go. So -8. When we multiply x plus 3 times itself, we're going to get x squared plus 6x plus 9, and then plus 128. All right, now I need to distribute my GCF. So -8x squared minus 48x minus 72 plus 128. And then combine like terms, because I have like terms right here. So y equals -8x squared minus 48x. And if we add these two together, it looks like it should be 56. All right, now I want intercept form, so that means I need to factor. So I need to factor this trinomial. First thing we do is look for a GCF, and I see a GCF of -8. So I'm going to take out a -8, which would leave x squared plus 6x minus 7. Well, this is almost exactly what we just had in the last problem. So I'm looking for numbers that multiply to be -7 but add up to +6. So numbers that multiply to be -7 but add up to +6 are the exact opposites of what we just had. So these two are going to multiply to be -7, but they add up to be 6. And there's intercept form. All right, moving on. Number 7, we are looking for vertex form. All right, so first thing is the x squared is negative. So I think it's pretty important for us to start by recognizing that we don't want a negative. This is going to be considered a leading coefficient, okay? So we want vertex form. In order to get vertex form, we need to start in standard form, which we have, and now we need to go through the process of completing the square almost to the end, but not quite. So first thing I'm going to do is move the -98 to the other side by adding it. And then that's going to leave me -x squared plus 20x on the left side. This negative is counting as a leading coefficient, so I need to pull that out because I can't do my shortcut with this negative right here. So I'm going to pull out a -1, which would leave x squared minus 20x plus our magic number equals 98 plus our magic number. All right, so half of this is -10. -10 squared is 100. But I put 100 inside a set of parentheses that's going to be distributed by -1, so I need -100 on the other side. So now we can factor this down to be x minus 10 squared. Still have the -1 outside. On the right side, it adds up to -2. So the last thing we need to do to get vertex form is to bring that -2 back to the left side. So we have that. And of course, we don't need to write the -1, so we could just have negative and then x minus 10 squared plus 2. So now we have vertex form. So that one went from standard form to vertex form. All right, last one, and I need to go on to the next page again. All right, so number 8, doing another vertex form. So here it is. This time we are starting in intercept form. So in order to get vertex form, we have to start in standard form. We're not in standard form, we're in intercept form. So in order to get standard form, we have to multiply our binomials together and then distribute our GCF. So first thing we're going to do is multiply these two. So that would be x squared minus 7x plus 12. And then we need to distribute the 3, so we would get 3x squared minus 21x plus 36. Now we have standard form, so now we can do completing the square to get vertex form. So here we go. First thing we need to do is move the 36 to the other side, so I'm going to call that a negative 36. And then the left side would have 3x squared minus 21x. All right, I'm at the step where I need to decide what my magic number is, but I can't do that with a leading coefficient. So I need to pull that leading coefficient out, which is going to give me x squared minus 7x plus blank equals negative 36 plus blank. All right, so here we go, the dreaded fractions. But this is going to be absolutely fine. So we'll do a little bit of scratch work off to the side. Okay, so I need half of negative 7. Well, half of negative 7 would be negative 7 over 2. And that squared would be 49 over 4. Okay, so half of this number is 7 over 2. And 7 over 2, or negative 7 over 2, sorry, but negative 7 over 2 squared is going to be 49 over 4. All right, now, on the other side, however, I need to multiply these two together. So when I go to put this on the other side, it's going to be 147 over 4. So what I did here is I multiplied 3 times 49. So, and mentally, 3 times 40 would be 120. 3 times 9 would be 27. 120 and 27 gives me 147. Okay. All right. So now we can factor this. And remember that anytime we factor it, it's just that half of that middle number. So half of negative 7 is negative 7 over 2. So that goes right here. All right. Now, on the other side, I know that, fractions are not loved by you guys, but it really is a lot easier to just go ahead and combine these together. So I need to get a common denominator with these two. So I need a denominator of 4, which means I need to multiply 36 times 4, which would give me negative 144. So 144 over 4 is the same as 36. So I just got a common denominator of 4. So that means if I multiplied the bottom by 4, I have to multiply the top by 4. That's how I came up with the negative 144. So now I can easily add those two together, and it looks like 3/4. Negative 144 plus 147. And now I'm done. All I need to do is bring the 3/4 back to the other side. So y equals 3, x minus 7/2 squared minus 3/4. And that is the answer. So, ended with a fraction, which is awesome. Hope you finished strong. So, not bad. We did all those within 20 minutes. If you need to go back and rewatch any, obviously rewind the video, watch it again if you need to, and let me know if you have any questions.